Alrighty, so looks like it says we're live, so I guess that we're live. All right, and hey, we got someone in the chat already. It is good old real Dr. Beckman. How you doing, sir? All right, and what is going on, comic book guys and gals of the internet? Today, I am with my good friend here, Approach the Nerd, and we are going to be talking about Power Rangers Beast Morphers Season 1. So I'm so happy about that. Should be a very fun stream. And let's go ahead. It's morphin' time. And just so you know, this is the Japanese version from Takumi Sentai Go Busters because it doesn't have the Ranger key and all that stuff. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and let my friend Maria from Approach the Nerd introduce herself. Go ahead, girl.
Well, he did it better than I did, but hello guys, my name is Maria Park and I have a channel called Approach the Nerd if you would like to check it out. And I am a Power Rangers and Sentai enthusiast. I like a lot of stuff, but I think I saw Sentai before I saw Power Rangers. So I love talking about it and that is why we're here today.
Yay! And I did leave a link to her channel in the description down below, so make sure to go check that out. And it's kind of interesting that you said you saw Sentai first. I'm pretty sure me, like most others, it was exactly the opposite. I had been a long time hardcore, diehard Power Rangers fan. And gosh, I don't think it was until after Bokanger, it was when Go-Onger was the current season that I actually was introduced to it. So I'll tell you, as a Power Ranger fan, it was a whole new world, that was opened up to me. And, I think that's really awesome. But that is not the topic of today's discussion. Today's topic is Power Rangers Beast Morphers. Okay. And yeah, season 1. Because initially I have the title. I know I have the title in the video with some season 2 speculation. But according to Maria, season 2 is already underway. See, this is what happens when you don't have cable and you can't stay, current up with, TV and all that. See, I have to wait for Power Rangers to drop on Netflix. So hopefully we'll get like half a season on Netflix to start, because that's how they did it with Beast Morphers and Ninja Steel, is that Netflix dropped them 10 episodes at a time until the season was complete. So again, hopefully we can do that. But yes, Power Rangers Beast Morphers season 1. This is the what is it? The 27th Power Ranger.
So, yeah, 27th series. 27.
It's something like that, because like I know in terms of seasons, it's interesting because of what Saban did with Samurai, where they were doing the regular season and the super season, which count as 2 different seasons, yet are really one full season.
Yeah,
so
they did that with Dino Charge as well. They had Super Dino Charge. It was all
and then also Ninja Steel and stuff, and of course Megaforce, Super Megaforce, which I really messed up the count in terms of like, what really, where are we really at in terms of it, the theme.
But if we just think about the team, as long as it has the same cast, it's one series, but probably 26 or 27.
Yeah, probably the 26th or 27th season of Power Rangers, which is an adaptation of Takumi Sentai Go Busters, which is hands down absolutely one of my favorite Sentai series. And I have been waiting. Yeah, absolutely. I have been waiting for a Power Rangers adaptation of this one for a long time, because I had long since, had discussions with other Sentai fans and stuff like that, that this is probably one of the most adaptable seasons that has ever come across, the Power Rangers landscape. Just because when you look at Go Busters in and itself, in terms of the themes and stuff like that, with it's got that whole energy kind of thing going. Even the bad guys, they're the giant robots. They call them Megazords. You have it's morphin' time in the in the theme song, part of the morphin sequence. The morphers here, they say it's morphing time, and that's it honestly surprised me that this was never a show that was adapted sooner. but had gotten skipped
Which I'm
over.
glad though, because Hasbro's doing a much better job than Saban.
And I definitely agree to that. So I figure that's a great place to start. Actually, it's what are your overall thoughts on the first season of Beast Morphers? And since you are the guest, you can go first.
Yay! Okay, so I, in general, really liked the adaptation because it is very close, actually, to what we see in Go Busters. I mean, yeah, they're not kids whose parents were affected by a virus and were working on this virus, and they're basically trying to figure out what happened to their family if they're dead, and were raised. These three characters were raised in the organization. Whereas in Beast Morphers, you have to literally go through like boot camp training to become a ranger. So it's completely different. And in the Japanese series, they're not trying to find clean energy for their city. They're trying to stop a virus. And in retrospect, in Beast Morphers, Nathan started out tapping into the morphing grid, trying to get clean energy for all of Pearl Harbor, but it created a virus. And we have Evox. And so it's almost like a yin to a yang, but I think it really works well. I think it works individually. Like for an American audience, this is a very, very good adapted show.
Yeah, I will agree to that 110%. And we have real Dr. Vickman in the comment section. He says, Mighty Morphin is the only Power Rangers. Okay, sir, you need to expand your horizons just a tad. There's and I'm going to say something, off topic for a second that might be a little controversial for some people, but Mighty Morphin is not the best seasons of Power Rangers.
No, it was just the first. And I've already discussed that I literally saw Sentai before MMPR because it's also an age thing. I was 19 when it came out. So I saw Five Man and Dynaman, and a lot of people saw Dynaman. They didn't realize they did. There was a little thing on TV that used to come on late at night in the States called Night Flight, and they did a parody of the actual Dynaman series. And they dubbed over it. It was absolutely hilarious, but that was a real series. So a lot of people were exposed and had no idea what they were watching until Power Rangers came out. But so Super Sentai started it for me. It started for a lot of people, and without it, you wouldn't have MMPR or any of the other series. But I get the nostalgia. You love Tommy, you love Kimberly, you got acclimated to these characters, and so when you start bringing in these other series, you're confused or you don't want to be dedicated. But at the same time, that's how they've been doing it in Japan for like 50 years. So like they never have the same series. They always change year by year by year. So we were an anomaly having MMPR for what, 2-3 seasons before they went over
3 seasons before they changed the suits. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not, but I mean, we're not trying to hate on your love, RDV. I mean, if you are MMPR and that is you, but please give it a chance because there's a lot of really good shows out there like Go Kaiger and Go Busters. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely true. And I again, like you were saying, I get the nostalgia lens of the original Power Rangers 110%, like 3 seasons, especially, you've been with those characters for such a long time, but, by the time they actually shifted over and started changing the theme every year, that was definitely something that I think helped the show out because by season 3, it had gotten kind of stale. But
they didn't have any more material to work from. Zoo Ranger only had 51 episodes, so what were they going to do?
Yeah. Well, even in season, because even in season 3, they had to make 10 episodes, and they had to adapt the Kaku Ranger stuff because they were kind of like running out of footage and whatnot to use with that season. But back on topic with Beast Morphers. So when it came to Power Rangers Beast Morphers, I honestly didn't know what to expect out of this season coming out the gate because, my last few experiences were, of course, in the Neo Saban era from the Power Rangers, Samurai, all the way through Ninja Steel and their super seasons, respectively, as well. And I, for one, was not a fan of most of the Neo Saban era with, for me, at least, season 1 of Dino Thunder being the really only saving grace of the show of the series, with that being really the only season across all those other ones that I thought were really good. And then by the time we had gotten past Super Ninja Steel, Saban was at that point. Well, it's just like, okay, well, I don't know what else to do with it. It seems that Power Rangers was kind of tanking again. So he went into negotiations with Hasbro, who also now makes the toys. And I will also state there that I was actually kind of surprised. They make some good quality toys. I do want to get the Morpher at some point, but I actually had a buddy here who showed me the Power Rangers Morpher, and we compared the Japanese one to the American one, and they are pretty comparable in terms of functionality and this and that, which is honestly one of the most functional Power Rangers Morphers that we've had in actually quite a few years, I would say.
Yeah,
because
I think Mr. Force was pretty close. I literally have the Japanese version of the Maji Ranger Morpher, and the make of this is almost identical to what they did in Mystic Force. So I was very proud of that. I think they even kept some of the sounds when they did the morphing.
Yeah,
so
I think they did too. Back in the Disney era, they did all right with the adaptations. I think it was for me. It was primarily in the Neo Saban era where they were definitely a little more
kind of lacking. Yeah, they tried to trademark it more. They wanted to have something that they could say was U.S. based Power Rangers, since they were using all the Japanese footage for those parts. So that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it was just weird because I also have the legendary Mobirate, and when I compared it to its U.S. counterpart, it was so lacking in features and stuff like that. But so when it came to when it finally came to the trade off where Hasbro had officially taken Power Rangers off Saban's hands, and I think that Beast Morphers is also a bit of a transitional season too, because there's still a lot of the people that were working on that. On this show that were, from the Neo Saban side too. There's a lot of these people coming over, and I think they just recently redid the trademark to take Saban's name off of it. Whereas, here in Beast Morpher Season 1, Saban's name is still trademarked with the Power Rangers title itself. We also have Maverick MX who came in the chat. How you doing? Glad, thanks for joining us. And yeah, so when I saw the initial promos and stuff like that for the show, I was very interested. I was intrigued because I was like, oh, it looks fairly decent and stuff like that. And then, of course, I wasn't able to watch the first season until it dropped all on Netflix. And when it did that, well, I can't really say all on Netflix, 10 episodes, then a few months later, the other 10 episodes. And when I watched those,
how they aired on Nickelodeon, by the way, not to interrupt you. That's exactly what we get. We get 10 episodes, and Nickelodeon takes it completely off the air, and then they come back months later, and then we get 10 more, which is insane.
Yeah, it's that hiatus thing, which I really hope that.
But they only do that with
they just stop.
They don't do that with SpongeBob or any of the other shows. They just do it with live action stuff, and I don't know why, but.
That drives me crazy. I wish they would stop that too. But yeah, no. And when I got past those first 10 episodes, and I admit I was very impressed with the show at first. The first episode was kind of scared me a little bit because I was seeing a lot of elements in the show where I was just kind of like, oh no, what are they going to do with these characters? Characters like Ben and Betty, for example, who are the comic relief characters in the show, because especially I would say in the Neo Saban era, and even to a degree in the Disney era, with certain characters where they've been constantly trying to sort of recapture that Bulk and Skull dynamic, and a lot of times they just fall short. So I was really worried about these characters, but then as the season progressed, I actually like what they ended up doing with them, and they ended up becoming, I think, rather likable and rather interesting, So they were definitely characters that grew on me, and I'm glad that that they, the writers, whether they're old or new, either learned from their past mistakes or past mistakes of the other writers from the Neo Saban era, and ended up, really writing good characters here. Even when it comes to the main Power Rangers, you have Devin, Zoe, Ravi, Nate, and we even have Steel, which is he's a robot. We haven't, and unlike other robot Power Rangers like the Blue Centurion from Turbo, or what is it? I want to say Gosei Knight, but I know that's Robo Knight is what they call him here in the U.S. They call him Robo Knight. So unlike other past robot rangers, he actually has a morphing sequence, which I think is awesome, and I think that he also deserves a spot in the credits. Because he doesn't.
I think his voice actor definitely should have.
Yeah, at least his voice, maybe his voice actor and his suit actor. Because they both do really good. With the character, he probably ended up becoming one of my favorite characters, if not my favorite character on the show. In terms of the Ranger cast and stuff like that.
Your favorite character, Steel?
I think Steel is my favorite character. I really like what they did with him and stuff like that.
Jax. I like the Beast Buddies.
The Beast Buddies are really cool. The Beast Buddies are really cool too, and I was really happy that they included them from getting them from Go Buster and stuff like that. Just because I didn't think they were gonna use them that well, and I kind of do wish they had implemented them a little bit more in the first season. But hopefully in the second season we do get to see them a little bit more often. But one of the things I also really enjoyed, I would say, that really captured me about the first season as well was the implementation of the Sentai footage to the American footage. This is probably one of the few seasons where it's almost seamless. I don't know if they're, I don't know if they were filming with the same kind of cameras to get a similar look, but I really liked what they did with that as well. So, I guess to sum up the entire first season for me,
it was Japanese, wasn't it? Didn't they bring in the Japanese director over to Hasbro?
I'm not sure. I don't remember if he did or not. They may have. Yeah. I know there's oftentimes a lot of overlap, but I would say overall for the first season, I found it really interesting. I liked it. In terms of from where it started, it improved a lot and ended up being probably one of the best Power Rangers seasons, I would say, in close to 10 years.
Yeah, I will stand by that. That actually is true. I am going to talk about some things I wish they had done differently, though. So, you have to. Nothing's perfect.
Yeah, nothing's perfect.
Nothing's perfect. So we already talked a little bit about this. Blaze. So if you're going to have an evil avatar of a character, then he should not be or have the same temperament and the same bull crappery as your original, counterpart. Because Blaze was a bad guy to begin with. When he was fighting Devin in the pilot episode, he was trying to hurt him, to the point where it looked like he was trying to kill him. So it was not believable to me that, oh, this is Blaze, and then this, he's the good guy, and then this is his evil counterpart when they act exactly the same. So that was hard for me. That I was trying to suspend my disbelief, but I don't believe it. So Roxy, on the other hand, complete 180. Roxy actually is she was very sweet, very mellow, and then you have Roxy who's manipulative, a genius. She is a true villain. If out of all of them, really, I think Roxy is probably the biggest villain out of everyone in the villain cast. And that includes Evox. That includes, what's his name? His name always goes out of my head. Scrozzle? Scrozzle, the one that Scrozzle. He's to me, he is the mastermind, even with Scrozzle. Though I will say, this is my next point, Scrozzle seems to kind of come up with a lot of plans that he should probably implement himself and not trust others, because at the end of the day, he seems to get the brunt of Evox. So Evox is why didn't this work, Scrozzle? I'm going to destroy you, blah, blah, blah. And it's I wasn't even in the field. You know what I mean? I sent them, they messed it up. So I feel like they should have given Scrozzle a little bit more, if we're going to believe he's a mastermind too, that he can come up with all of his ideas, and he does. He's basically Nate's counterpart. He comes up with all of their tech on their end. He should be allowed out of the lab to do his own evil, every once in a while. So I had issues with that. The parents bother me. And I always say this about every Power Ranger show. It always feels like their parents.
There's definitely a Power Rangers thing, I would say.
Yeah, it's honestly, I feel like I feel like so to be fair, Neo Saban era and then Saban era, the parents were non-existent. It's like they didn't care about their kids. I literally watched Power Rangers in Space and I was thinking, as a mother myself, I would need to know where my child is, that she's high school age and she's not in school. Like they're calling me every day telling me, where's your kid? No, my kid's flying through space on a spaceship that I don't know about because I don't realize my kid is a Power Ranger. So that is always like a problem in terms of suspending your disbelief. I don't understand that. So the only logical conclusion is the parents didn't give a crap about them. But in this version, they're too involved. Like they're so involved. Like with Mayor Daniels, he's always like, Devin, you're responsible. Devin, get a job. Devin, why you doing this? Devin, why you doing that? He's like a barrier of entry into being a Power Ranger for Devin is overcoming dad. You know, like Zoe's mother is a reporter, very supportive, but still gets in the way of the Power Rangers a lot. So I think that's interesting. But then you have Robbie's mother, who I swear does not act like a mother at all. She's just like, it's almost like she's giving him orders. You know what I mean? It's like his whole parental unit, our parental relationship with his mother is a boot camp experience. You know, she's like, I'm sorry, your girlfriend's dead. Did you go and take the stuff in the truck? And I'm like, wow. Like, problematic. Parents are problematic in this series. Let's see. Some other things that bother me. I already talked about with you. We talked about Ben and Betty. I understand, and especially since you've reminded me that their father is pretty much over all of it. I just thought he was a high-level general. I didn't realize that he was really high up in Grid Battle Force. So now that I know that, it makes a little bit more sense. But that also poses another issue of nepotism. Meaning, yes, my children are bright, but they are very problematic to all of your experiments. But because I fund you, put them where I want them to go. Or if they want to work in the science department, let them go. If they want to go to the janitor, location, let them go. Oh, what? You're working on a bomb? Sure, they'll help you out. It's like nothing is off limits for these two, but it should be. There should be some kind of oversight for Ben and Betty. They should not be allowed in top secret scenarios in Grid Battle Force. That's my opinion. So that's one of the things that I think is kind of like a negative in the show. And then my other big one is Evox himself. Evox just runs his mouth, but he doesn't really come up with any plans. He doesn't come up with anything. He just sits there and says, okay, do it or I'll destroy you. It better work out. I'll destroy you. And he's like not intimidating. He's like the most boring villain ever. He really is. I have more fun looking at Scrozzle and all of them than I do with Evox. Evox is like a virus I can just get a virus program for and erase off my computer. So that's pretty much how I feel about Evox. So those are my negatives for the show. So you have any negatives so far since you've watched all of season 1 now?
I mean, a lot of my negatives are pretty similar to yours in terms of I did find some, a lot of the parents to be, just not even so much too involved. Like, the some appearances here and there, I'm like, okay, that's something and stuff like that. But it's just a lot of times how they acted. Primarily one thing I just couldn't get over was Zoe's mother. So Zoe's mother in the show, she's a news reporter. This is what she does. And there is actually an episode where they get footage of the Power Rangers morphing, and the Power Rangers identities are meant to be a secret. And she has this information. She hasn't seen it. She just wants to blast it on the news and just completely, scoop the story.
Right? It was damaged. Yeah. I had to fix the footage, and they hadn't seen it yet. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just sitting there, and I'm sitting there watching the show, and then they came to the point where she was about to show the footage, but then some other elements within the show happened, and she thought about it, and she's like, you know what? We must respect the Power Rangers' identities. And then like the boss comes up and he goes, that's what a true reporter is all about. And I'm sitting there thinking about, this does not relate to the real world whatsoever. I'm like, if this is real life, she would have blasted their identities on it, made her money, and called it a day.
Yeah, I agree with you. That episode was problematic in a lot of ways because they were making the mother feel bad. But technically speaking, they are lying about who they are. She is a reporter whose job is to expose the truth. And her daughter did this whole sob story. It's like, well, maybe there's a reason that you have to protect their identities because they protect the city. And if everyone knows who they are, then how can they protect everyone? And it's like, but you're still lying. And I'm still a reporter. Reporting means I report on the lies, the news, which is you're a Power Ranger. And she still doesn't know her daughter's a Power Ranger. So yeah, it was really unbelievable that such a seasoned reporter would change like that. And her boss was just, everyone's station was like, hey, no.
Yeah, no. She, like, I think a more realistic setting would have been her boss getting angry and her losing her job over it. Probably would have been a more realistic, thing to happen. And then also, of course, when it comes to Devin's dad, like, I get he's the mayor and there's a lot of, there's about the public appearance and stuff like that. But sometimes, there is such a thing as being too down on your kids. Like, I know in his eyes, Devin doesn't really accomplish much and he gets fired from the car wash. But I mean, the way he talks to him is just kind of like, you're such a disappointment to me.
I know. Like, what is that?
I'm just like, I'm just sitting there like, I feel like Devin could save, a kitten out of a tree, and his dad would just be like, it wasn't the whole person.
Yep.
Why wasn't it 2 kittens?
Why get so mad over a car wash, though, Joe? Why get mad? I mean, you got him the job. Why can't he work with you? Why can't he run around the city trying to get you reelected, run your campaign or something like that? You know what I mean? It's like, why are you so mad that he got fired from this car wash? It's not like he was like, I'm going to major in car washing in college. It's weird. So yeah, I agree with that. That's my point about the parents. They're too problematic because they're put in situations as barriers for the Power Rangers to do their jobs, basically. But I will respect the fact that they did that because we've had so many seasons where the parents just let their kids go off for like months and not even contact them and do whatever and never ask questions and ever because they don't love their kids in the other Power Rangers. Neo, Saban, and Saban era, the parents did not love their children. End of story.
Yeah. Well, the ones that were teenagers anywhere. I mean, there were later seasons and stuff where the Power Rangers were clearly adults and stuff like that. And those, and I really did like a lot of those seasons where, you didn't have to think about parents because parents obviously were not an issue, in terms of stuff like that. But I just kind of want to touch a little bit on, definitely some other elements in the show that were fairly interesting. Like the fact that in the show, the Power Rangers' identities are meant to be kept secret, but any and all morphing sequences are generally done out in the open, in the public area. Just
CCTV. Oh wait, I'm sorry. I have British surveillance cameras, American surveillance.
Yeah,
cameras.
I mean, just mere seconds after clearing out an area. I mean, there's bound to be a few stragglers here and there, and I get the story. I mean, well, not even really a story point. Like, I know what they want to do. They want to do something kind of like, oh, hey, in some seasons, the Power Rangers have to keep their identities a secret. But I would argue this is probably one of those seasons where that doesn't need to be a thing. Because of what they are. Because, like, there are past seasons, like Lightspeed Rescue, for example, there was no reason to keep their, identities a secret.
No, they wore the jackets and they rode on the official Hummer,
Yeah.
Because everybody knew they were.
Yeah, they were a rescue military styled team, and to a degree, this is a very similar thing. And
well, let me ask you this question, since you brought that up. Zoe went through the Power Ranger training, right? But she apparently she didn't make it. She got rooted out because she had to work a full-time job. Did she not tell her mother that she was applying and was going through the boot camp for the Power Rangers thing? Like, did she not, you know what I mean? Did she not express that to her mom?
I don't think we ever saw her bring that up. I mean, we know she ended up in the laundry room in the first episode. But yeah, I mean,
she flunked out of Power Ranger school. And then Roxy ended up chosen.
I don't think she ever
not tell her mother.
Like, I would think she would have told her mother, but if she didn't, it would have been off screen prior to the first episode, saying, "Hey, Ma, I got a job. I'm in the laundry room."
But not, "Hey, Mom, I just signed up for this program where if it works out, then I'm going to become a Power Ranger." I mean, I don't know if they force you to sign a non-disclosure, but I mean, it's just weird that this program recruited. And how did she find out about it? Because we already know from the pilot, she went to training first And when she flunked out, she took a job in the laundry room to stay within the organization. So how did she know about the initial recruitment process to begin with? You see what I mean? It's like those are the questions you ask yourself. And I know no series is perfect, but if we have to nitpick a good show, then this is some stuff that I'm nitpicking. It's like, how do people know? How do you know that this program is happening? I mean, how did they recruit this random girl who wasn't even on the radar before she even worked at the laundry room for the organization? Explain
maybe some flyers and stuff like that. I mean, Grid Battle Force as a whole isn't really a top secret organization. It's just more so that, you know, the Power Rangers are meant to have their secret identities. But it seems like as far as everything else, I mean, the building's out in the open. They have their sign plastered on the door. I would argue probably in terms of just the standard everyday regular employee, there's no need for secrecy. Yeah, they probably got to sign some NDAs if they work anywhere near any of the labs. But, you know, for most everybody else, you know, the security guards, janitors, stuff like that. Yeah, that's probably just, you know, probably got it on, you know, one of those job websites like Monster or Indeed.com or something like that.
Do you want to be a ranger? So yeah, I it was really interesting. That whole thing. What was the name of the other villain? Was it Vorg? Is it Vorg or Vargoyle? The one that
Vargoyle.
Yeah, that had the Fury cells.
Yeah, he got the enhanced upgrade later in the season. Yep, Vargoyle.
He was more of a threat to me than Evox because he generally didn't care. They're like, you stole our plans, and he's like, yep.
Yeah. Well, see, it's interesting, and it's interesting that you bring up Evox too in terms of his, you know, in terms of how he is as a villain, because you know, even in not Power Rangers, even in Go Busters, you know, there was that, you know, Sentai often, or even not in Go Busters, but Sentai often has that sort of storyline going on where, you know, for half the season, this is the villain, you know, but then either they're, you know, usurped by a bigger threat, or usurped by one of their underlings who was, you know, making, you know, who was coming up with a plan to take over themselves. Yeah, exactly. Like, I mean, that's exactly what happened in Go Busters, you know, with the one character. I cannot remember his name, but he always spoke French.
I know exactly what you're talking about too, and I cannot. It just went right out of my head. But I know exactly what you're talking about.
His name was Enter.
That's right.
And he was always like the underling for the entire show, almost like the Scrozzle/Blaze combination, because he did get that power to take that form that was his form and stuff like that. And then he ended up, you know, getting rid of the main villain of that particular series and became the main villain in the end. So I do have to wonder, especially when it came to I would say when it came to Roxy in the first season, how smart and intelligent she was. For at least for a little bit, I was thinking it was going to be sort of a play like that, where, you know, she was going to end up, you know, coming up with a plan to get rid of Evox and kind of stepping into that position herself, or, you know, or if her and Blaze were going to do it as a team, or, you know, maybe even Scrozzle, as you suggested, because of him coming up with a lot of the plans as well, you know. And I do have to wonder if even here in season 2, if that's not a thing that might end up happening, where, you know, one of these avatars will become, you know, either one of the avatars or one of the other underlings will become the main threat for their, you know, at the very end of the show. I mean, well, maybe not Roxy, unless they plan to bring her back, because they did knock her out, her avatar out and stuff like that. So she's
we need to talk about that too, because that's another point that was very interesting.
Yeah, that was going to be my transitional point to that aspect of it. So I'll let you have the floor now with that point.
So how crazy was it to you that they always stress, as a ranger, you have all these morals, you cannot seek revenge, don't use your powers, you know, don't use your power basically for personal gain. Let's just put it out there. Robbie destroyed Roxy's avatar because of what Roxy did to, you know, human Roxy, destroying her little cap or whatever you want to call it, when she was in a coma. She completely destroyed it. Robbie literally obliterated this girl. Like, it was like no hesitation.
It was not a contest.
So he is the first Power Ranger to murder someone because she wasn't in. It wasn't like I'm taking out this metal form. No. He destroyed Roxy, and she is, no matter avatar or not, that's basically a fleshed being. Robbie killed someone in Power Rangers. I'm just saying.
I don't know if I count that as murder though, because she basically was Data.
She was, but I mean, when you look at that,
she was corporeal. You could punch her and stuff like that. But I always kind of thought that, I don't know if I'd count it as murder because she's technically not a person. She's just.
Well, let's put it this way: the state Robbie was in, even if she was not Data, he would have killed her anyway. And I really believe that.
Oh yeah, if she wasn't Data, yeah, he totally would have killed her.
Yep.
Yeah, no argument there.
We've seen that, like in Power Rangers, like it's weird. We've never actually seen, like in like what Samurai, they have like duels where they a duel to the death. But I mean, okay, we already knew that was gonna play out. But he did not hesitate. He obliterated her, and I'm like, wow, that's how you know it got real. He killed her and had no conscience about it whatsoever. Still didn't.
Yeah, because I actually really liked that scene too, because I thought that was juxtaposed perfectly with how the relationship between Robbie and Roxy was for the entire season, essentially. Because, ever since the Avatar bit happened and she became, the evil Roxy and stuff like that, Robbie in the back of his mind from the beginning was just kind of like always thinking to himself, okay, it came from Roxy, maybe there's a little bit of a part of her in there. We saw Roxy use that a few times to try and either turn him into an avatar or getting Morphex in some fashion, and really using that and using Robbie and taking advantage of his kindness and his caring through the entire season. And I really love that moment where finally he was at the point where he was like, enough is enough. The real Roxy, her body is dying. I mean, she was dying. And so he's like, even against his mother's wishes, went ahead and just got her out of there to bring Roxy back. And I really like that. I really like to see that even in a children's forum, to see the evolution of his character like that, so that he could better, so that he was able to better discern, the difference between the two different versions of Roxy. And I'm sure as the season will go on, we'll help him make better judgment calls too.
Yeah. It was very bold. I'm so used to characters, especially Neon Saban. They're all like, I can't do it. I can't take a life no matter what. I can't destroy Robo Knight. I can't destroy, you know what I mean? They're always like, I can't, like Murphy. I remember SPD, they like when the episode where Murphy went bad and, Sid was like, I can't take out Murphy. He's my friend and he's a robot dog. So it's like, you see that. And they're like so adamant that even though it's an inanimate object, it still has a soul. And it's like, here Robbie is, click, 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 bam, like, bye.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, some good times there. Yeah, that's always been one of the most interesting aspects, about Power Rangers is they just don't want to touch that subject too hard, even though in the original Saban era, like Power Rangers in Space, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, like there were some deaths, man. Like between those two seasons, especially, people died. And it was pretty intense. Zordon died, and both Zordon died, and even though she did come back, Kendricks died for a little while.
Kendricks did die. Corone, well, she didn't die; she got brainwashed. But a lot of no problem killing off people for sure.
Yeah. So in the later seasons, I was always just kind of like, oh, come on, what's one or two, even off-screen deaths, give us something, You gotta give something for us because us Power Rangers fans, we're getting older, but the show's not.
Well, this show to me is a lot more in line with RPM in that they don't hold back. Yeah. Now, RPM, I will say, I mean, they were modifying humans, and they said they were modifying them. Like they were torturing them, they were replacing parts with like machine parts. So like the stakes were very high in that series, and it's the same with this one. So I like that they actually kept that kind of like gloom and doom type feel, as opposed to everything's cheery. Yes, the world's going to end and there are villains, but let's go get some ice cream, like Megaforce. You know, I dislike that series very much.
I don't. Megaforce, what's that? I've never heard of Megaforce. You know.
Yeah. It is the Voldemort of the Power Ranger universe.
Like when it came to that series, I will say though that I never had thought I would ever see a worse season than Operation Overdrive, but damn it, they managed. They managed.
And my favorite Sentai of all time is Gokaiger. I've seen them all, and I literally was so heartbroken at the crap that they did. So we won't talk about Super Megaforce. Okay, so moving back on the subject, what do you think about the Fury cells? Like the episode where Devin got infected with these Fury cells, and it made him crazier than Robbie gets when he overheats. Like he was like on a rampage. He was not caring what he did.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's very interesting because it was a storyline that was it was akin to what have you, steroids or drugs or something that just made him feel so good about himself that he lost his inhibitions, and it was actually part of Roxy's plan to like permanently infect Devin to make him evil, which also just showed how evil she really was, like in terms of her manipulation tactics, was so interesting, and I really liked that storyline because for two reasons. One, it showed that even the Power Rangers can be overcome with with greed or in some capacity. If they want more power, like they need more power, they'll do anything to get that power. And really shows how fallible they are as characters and people. Secondly, also one of the things I really enjoyed about that was after the Fury crystals were destroyed, we didn't see the Fury armor again. They didn't bring it back.
They never brought it back.
They didn't find any alternate power source. They were like, that was it. It's done. And I was like,
no more red Fury mode.
Yeah, I was like, they got rid of Fury mode. That's fascinating.
Like I said, they do a lot of things that are just not the norm, and I love it. Like it's not normal that have like a battleizer type situation, and then be like, oh, but that's bad. Let's just not use that anymore.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And okay, so now there's this one episode that I did want to bring up too. And this was also probably one of the most interesting episodes. It was the episode where there was, I cannot remember her name, but there was the girl who came in to grab Battle Force. She wanted to be Nate's assistant. And she ended up going so far. She wanted it so bad. She went as far as trying to blackmail Nate and Zoe because she caught them going to the movies together.
Yeah, she was actually, she was blackmailing Zoe originally.
Yeah, she started with blackmailing Zoe, and then she tried to make Nate look inept.
Yeah.
She tried to make Nate look inept by overcharging. Huh?
Didn't Zoe Zoe was helping him make the final decision on who would be the lab assistant or something like that.
Yeah.
And she noticed the chemistry, which really is Robbie's mother's fault. But again, I can't tell you what happens in regards to all of that because that character does come back in season 2, and I'm not going to tell you why. And something happens that we need to talk about when you watch season 2 because it's going to play off of what we're talking about now. And
I'm sure it is.
It's basically how Major Daniels, who I guess has no first name. I don't know her first name, so I'm going to call her Major Daniels.
I cannot remember her first name.
I'm not Major Shaw. Major Shaw. I don't know her first name. I just don't know it. So we're going to call her Major Shaw. She was so hard on her son. And her whole character consistency moving forward is just called into question for me. But I can't, again, I'm not going to spoil anything because I need you to watch season 2 first. So I'm going to wait till it hits on Netflix and you watch it. And I guess we'll just have to do another video on this on your channel so we can talk about season 2. Because
definitely
things happen in season 2. Now that I realize that that's not super and it is season 2, I'm actually a lot further ahead than I thought I was. So I will be quiet in that regard.
Alrighty.
But as for that girl per se, that the fact that they had that situation was interesting. Because they normally do it as like a ranger will have a crush on somebody, and then they have to choose between being honest with that person or not dating them and keeping their secret or whatever, or breaking up because they keep having to leave their dates when the alarm goes off, so they usually play it off that. But they are usually like, I think in MMPR, there was instances where they had a test, they would miss a test, which they normally didn't do because the villains were very respectful in MMPR. You got to go to school. They didn't attack you till after school. Very nice, between the hours of 3 and 5. But there was that one instance where they had a history test and they had to walk out. I remember that. And like them trying to explain why they should be able to retake the test that was like 70% of their grade. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, this whole thing with her was an anomaly. They actually came at it a different way with a woman who was so ambitious. She had no problem hurting people to get what she wanted. So definitely more realistic.
Yeah, I mean, one of the aspects about that episode that really stuck out to me too is because normally in the Power Rangers landscape, this would be sort of like oh, we're gonna teach you a valuable lesson kind of episode, and then at the very end, oh, I learned my lesson. I'm just gonna work hard and whoop-de-doo, work my way up the ladder the right way, But then that doesn't happen, and that was really such a fascinating moment too, where at the very end of the episode, where she gets caught, she gets fired, and that even after knowing that she blackmailed Zoe, set Nate up to look incapable of running the lab, that she still thought she was in the right. That was such a, in terms of character, she is one of the more fascinating characters that had come across the show in that regard, because of how blanketly into herself she is, how into her own mind, and that she believes everything she does is the right thing, even if it's hurting other people. Which
actually plays into our lives today, which is why I'm convinced the show is a lot more political than people realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And I did say, you don't have, obviously don't confirm, but obviously in my mind with Roxy, having been, removed as an avatar in this season, at the end of this season and stuff like that. And now I'm thinking her character, I'm like, we're going to have a replacement here? Is that what's going on? Yeah, yep. Because I'm sitting there thinking about I feel like we got to be setting up a future story point, which also kind of comes into the next part. One thing this series does, especially in the back half of the season, that I really enjoyed was that they had sort of that end of the not really an after credit scene, but that final stinger where at the end of every episode, where even if the Power Rangers won, the bad guys got something out of it. They still had gotten something, and you could tell that it was building to something, and that there was an overall story. Because one thing about the original Power Rangers season, especially the first season, realistically, I mean, outside of the Green with Evil storyline and anything after that, you could jumble around most of the episodes, and it doesn't really matter. There's really no continuity. But with this show, there was the main story, and then there was a story they were building to, which I really, really like that aspect about the show, because, it piques curiosity and really keeps me engaged in what's going to happen next. What are they going after now? What is the ultimate goal of what they're trying to accomplish and stuff like that. And, and I really hope that, it's something that obviously carries on into season 2, and it keeps building on itself till we can get to the actual season 2 finale, which would be really the series finale of that particular series. Since they're still doing the 2 season thing, which
it's so weird.
Too.
It's so weird.
I would
Nickelodeon, though, it really is. It's their contract with them. They need to find another platform. Is what really needs to happen.
Yeah.
Now, I did have a question too. So, do you think that this Power Ranger series is more progressive than the other ones?
Progressive? want to say, like, I don't really want to say yes to that. I mean, because Power Rangers is, it's always had interesting moments within each of its own series where certain aspects of it could be a little progressive here and there. But I would say, like, for at least from my observation, I don't know if I would say it's more or less progressive than past seasons. What's your opinion on that? It seems like you have something to say on that.
Tell me that. Well, okay, so being half Black, I was very happy that they did not make the Red Ranger, the Black actor, the Red Ranger, the Blue Ranger, who would have been the gorilla, because that would have made a lot of people upset in the Black community, and it also would have, look at Zach in the original MMPR. The Black Ranger was the Black Ranger. The Asian was the Yellow Ranger. The Hispanic was the Red Ranger. Then you had the white girl as the Pink Ranger and the other white guy as the Blue Ranger. It was almost like, really? You stereotyping. So if we would have come into this series and Devin would have been made the Blue Ranger, there would have been an uproar. And I think they saw that. And I love the fact that, first of all, they don't talk about race, but they actually show minorities that have like really high levels of power. I mean, look at Robbie's mother. I don't know if she's Indian or Pakistani. I'm not really sure, but I think they may be Middle Eastern, which, in the climate of this country, it's very important to see somebody in that role that's working for, America / Pearl Harbor, which is in America, to protect the world and not being seen as stereotypically a terrorist. You know what I mean? Mayor Daniels being a Black man running the city and calling the shots, and nobody questions it, at all. There's not all that upheaval. So I think it's actually, if you look at the past and the leadership scope, it is definitely more progressive. And then when I heard that they were doing a Mighty Morphin, a Power Ranger movie, I don't know if it's going to be Mighty Morphin, a remake, and they're talking about having 3 girls on the team. I think one of them's even going to be trans. I think they're very forward thinking. They're very in touch with audience right now and what people are basically outlook and the climate of what's happening right now. So in a way, I think if you really break down the episodes, I think there's a lot of political and progressive stuff in there. And you just got to look at it.
Because I guess in terms of, like, say my mind, how my mind works, for example, it's there are things I'm not really noticing because, for the fact of we've had Black Red Rangers before, we've got Jack from SPD. We had
TJ
from,
TJ.
Yeah, we had TJ. Also, I was gonna say RPM. RPM's Red Ranger.
We called RPM because he was the Black Ranger. The Black Ranger. Will was actually Black in not RPM in Overdrive. In
Overdrive.
Yeah, so
also, I was talking RPM.
RPM didn't have a Black Ranger.
Yes, he did.
Wait, they had a Scottish Blue. They had the Zombie as the Yellow Ranger. Oh, they did. What was his name? Oh, what is it? He was the Red Ranger.
I know. I can't remember. I know his actor name. His name is Iko Darville.
Yeah, he was in
Jessica Jones.
He was also in the originals too. What is it? Oh, that's gonna bother me. So yeah. So they did have him. But now I'm just thinking the way of the leadership scope. Like, they're leaders of the team. I'm talking about Mayor Daniels. So the father being the mayor is more like what I was saying.
I was gonna say, that's why I was bringing up RPM too to a degree, was because his dad ran the city. He was
the general. They were the president. They had I can't remember his name. They did have a president.
Did they have a president?
Yeah, I remember them having a president. I'm gonna have to go back and look and Google that. I'm pretty sure he was the general over their program. And then they had what's her name? The chickie from the think tank, the one that looked like she was 12.
Dr. K.
Yeah, Dr. K, who actually married Ziggy's actor in real life, which I thought was very interesting.
Which is so weird because, not to get off topic too, I always thought that was weird. That pairing was a little weird because they didn't really look like they had much chemistry. And then at the very end of the episode where he puts his arm around her, I was like, oh God, that's really awkward. That is really awkward.
Relief, though. He was made to be the comedy relief, but quite frankly, he should have been the Green Ranger in my version of Gokaiger in the American version, because he would have been perfect as Dog. So,
no doubt. I was just saying, I'm not saying it's just the chemistry just didn't really feel like it was there. So it's interesting that they got married in real life. with that fact, But
yeah, I think a lot of the Rangers took up over time. I remember the Blue and Red Ren from Mystic Force were dating for a very long time. So I know a lot of them get together at some point, and then I guess they just realize the show's over and break up. But those two are still, I think, still married today. They've been married for a very long time.
Really, so, that's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. We might have to do another video on that. Popular Power Ranger couples, IRL.
Yep. Oh, trust me, I can fill you on some Sentai ones that will make your eyes bulb out. Real Sentai couples. But yeah, so like back to that though. I just feel like Hasbro actually is very sensitive to the climate, whereas Saban, I don't think anything they did was accidental. It was like, oh well, we'll just cast this guy. But now like Hasbro seems to think about all of the stuff that they do. And that's why I think that they, as a company, they have somebody whispering in their ear saying, we should do this. Let's not do that. So I think they're trying to be more progressive with Power Rangers than Neo Saban ever did. So I was very happy with that. I mean, I understand that we had our first Black Pink Ranger in Dino Charge. But she wasn't a fan favorite. Everybody loved Kendall, the Purple Ranger, or Violet Ranger. I think it was purple here. I think it's violet in Japan. She was not a focus hardly at all. I mean, yeah, she had a lot of lines, but she was more known for her crush on the Red Ranger. That's basically what you knew Shelby for. That's all you really needed to know about Shelby. She liked the Red Ranger.
Yeah, well, that's kind of interesting because I always thought that Shelby was probably one of the more developed characters in Dino Charge. Just because, we got to spend a lot of time, because especially from where she started versus where she ended up, we had the episode with her dad and stuff like that. I mean, in terms of character development, I really feel like she had probably the most development on the show out of all the main cast Rangers.
I don't think so at all. I actually think that because she knew about dinosaurs, we did get to see that. She did accept it a little bit more with Kendall, but we didn't even realize she was really in school majoring in business until nearly the end of the flipping series. It's like, what? And they have her and the Green Ranger had a closeness, like a friendship going, but it's almost like it only happened in sporadic episodes. So it's like there were sometimes she
that was part of the Neo Saban era, some of the more janky things, because even though I do say that Dino Charge is my favorite season out of all of the Neo Saban era, there were definitely some issues within that series as well. And of course, I just didn't like Super Dino Charge at all. I thought that was terrible.
Was very and the season finale, our series finale for that was very weird too. But
totally. That's a whole other discussion.
We're just about character development. One thing I will say, and the only reason I even brought that up in the progression is it just seems like it is a very forefront in Hasbro. Plus, they are big on character development. We actually know now, we can talk about every background story for all of these characters, except for how Zoe got recruited. But, all of these characters, we know that Zoe's mother is a single mother and she worked her whole life and she's always been supportive. We know that Robbie and his mother had this very, it's not really, I call it passive aggressive because that's what it feels like to me. It almost feels like they have a passive aggressive relationship.
Oh yeah, no, there's definitely some passive aggressive going on in that relationship. Yeah. I mean, even to a degree, I'm just kind of one thing I've been able to tell is she's not even sentimental, almost at all. Because do you remember the episode with the instruments where Robbie was trying to shine one up for the kid?
Oh,
and this was her. Yeah, this was his grandfather's stuff, and she's just kind of Get rid of the rest of it. Take what you want and get rid of the rest.
Yeah, remember he likes painting and sketching, and he was scared his mother would find out. So he's hiding his sketchbooks and everything, his easels and everything, so his mother would not, so the others wouldn't find it. So his mother wouldn't realize he was doing it. What is that? So that it just shows you a realistic view of that. And then of course we have Devin and his dad, and we can see how they butt heads, but they're alike, so that's their problem. So, we get to see that. We know that Nate's parents are overseas. He's lonely. And the reason that he's so inclined to call Steele his brother is he's always wanted to have a sibling. And it just stretches how lonely Nate is. It almost feels like his parents just dropped him off when he was young and said, okay, Battle Force, you guys have them. We're going to go live our lives, and it just seems to be what happened, and it's it's sad, but I love the fact that we know about all of these characters' backgrounds and their families. And so it's to me, the entire storyline is much more progressive and progressive is not just with race and gender and sexuality. I mean, in general, it just feels like they put a lot more thought into the development of these characters than we've had in the past. And so that
in terms of character development and characterizations, I absolutely agree with that. Because I mean, throughout the entire season, there were definitely some good moments with each of the characters. Where they got to start in a place or start in one place and end up in a different place. Like, of course, we were talked about Devin and his dad and stuff like that, and the fact that even in the first season that they were able to even reconcile that. Yeah, he had to wait till his dad found out. But still, it was very nice to get that. And, I'm just kind of sitting there thinking like, oh my gosh, we know he's infected. What's going to happen in season 2? Wouldn't it be interesting if they got the relationship totally back on track and then he just lost his dad? Total fascinating concepts and ideas.
You know what? You need to get. I know it's getting. We've been over for like an hour, but I really want to hear your season 2 speculations. It's not fair for me to say it because I've actually seen like 6 or 7 episodes in now. So I just need to know.
If you're 6 or 7 episodes, if you're 6 or 7 episodes, that's good because as soon as we hit 10, that means we'll get at least half the season on Netflix. So okay. So speculation for season 2 that I'm kind of thinking if, kind of going down that thing, obviously, Devin's dad's going to get 100% taken over, Mayor Daniels, and then he's probably going to, he might be the bad guy acting as the mayor, or he'll just go completely to Evox's realm. I don't know, something along those lines. I mean, if he does get 100% taken over, they better use that. The girl that did all the blackmailing and stuff like that. I think she's going to replace Roxy in some capacity as a villainess type character. And those are probably like my 2 big things because I'm also trying to think because I'm also in my mind thinking within the context of Go Busters too and like what they may have left. I would like to see Blaze be a little more intelligent, get some kind of upgrade in terms of his intelligence to make him a little smarter. Because as of right now, in the first season, he was just muscle. That's all he was.
He was a butthole. That was his 2 things. Like he was just mean.
The dude was definitely a jerk. He was definitely a jerk. So I would like to maybe see him get some kind of like intelligence chip upgrade, especially because his Sentai counterpart, he is supposed to be the counterpart to Enter, with the Blaze kind of Ranger form kind of thing, and Enter was extremely conniving, very smart. Like he had it from the beginning what he was gonna do. So I would like to see that happen. I mean, obviously we'll probably get some more Megazord formations. That's pretty much it for right now in terms of where I think major changes in the story will end up going. I mean, you did bring up the whole relationship with what is it, not Roxy, Nate and Zoe. You said you did kind of drop something there that maybe now it's not going to be a problem. Maybe they amended the rules, I don't know, between seasons.
Well, let's see. I can't tell you what happens because it's in season 2. So I have zipped because I did not realize it was season 2. So when we were initially talking, because when I look at it, like I go on demand, so I don't either record or on demand. So I'm not looking at what the numbers are. I'm like, oh, there's just another episode, and I click on it. The same thing I've done with like I watched Henry Danger, and I did the same thing with Henry Danger. I didn't even realize the series was ending until I was like, what? This is it? So like I had no idea that was season 2. I'm used to seeing super something, so it just didn't register to me. So as far as
it didn't click.
Well, I still thought we were in season 1. So now that I know that I've been watching season 2, that's not fair.
Yeah, you've been watching season 2. I think part of I remember reading it's on a website. I don't know how true it is, but I read that one of the reasons why they dropped the super thing for this one was Hasbro just wanted to do it because they didn't want to just rebrand everything. Secondly, I had heard a rumor I don't know how true it is, that they might be moving the show off of Nickelodeon onto another network where they can just do a dedicated 40-episode season, like going back to sort of how it was before the Neo Saban era came over to Nickelodeon. That would be great if that's true. I got my fingers crossed.
I mean, even if it's CW, you know, just put it on CW Kids, whatever. Do not air it on Nickelodeon because they cut it in such an awkward way. Like you may get 10 episodes and it goes to Netflix, but sometimes they'll air like 5 and then they'll repeat those 5 for like 3 months. You know, and it's like, what is happening? So it's hard to stay engaged in the show if you never know if it'll be a repeat or not. So like
it's hard to stay engaged, and it's hard to know when it comes back too, because you're not checking in constantly or consistently. Because like that's one of the things that I loved about the original season, especially the original series, especially, you know, with the back half of the Fox era and the Disney era, was that, you know, all shows started in February and they ended just before the next February, like in January.
Like December to January, yeah.
You
and
know,
then trailer, new show came out, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they would give you a tease and then boom.
And what I liked about Sentai is they do that, and then they have the partner or versus movie. So when the show ends, you still get to see them minimum 2 other times, and then they might have 2 solo movies for their team as well. So you get 4 movies even after the show ends and the new series is in airing.
Which I always wonder is that footage actually included in the contracts, or do they have to pay extra for those? I've always wondered that too, because in the Fox era. In the Fox era, when they were doing the team ups, like they had the footage for the team ups. We got the Sentai footage team ups. But then, you know, in like the Neo Saban era, there was only one. Like they had Samurai, and in the Samurai one, they had Samurai and the Clash of the Red Ranger movie is what they call it.
Yeah,
you know, we had that, but it was just it was just the Red Ranger though, and it wasn't like the full-on dedicated, like, you know, Sentai footage. So I always wondered.
His name was Scott, right?
Scott, yes, that's it.
Sorry, keep going. I'm so happy it gets popped into my head.
But I was saying, you know, that's one thing I do consistently wonder is if the film footage is included or if it costs anything extra, because it seems like they don't take advantage of they haven't been taking advantage of the team ups lately in terms of the use of the Sentai footage. And I know that here in season 2, you know, it looks like they're actually going to be using the Sentai footage from the team-up movie with Go Buster and Kyoranger, because we have, you know, Jason coming back as the MMPR Red Ranger, which was always an odd movie because it was primarily a dinosaur-themed movie with the Go Busters, which are not dinosaurs.
Yeah, well, and then also I know they can't have all of the Q Rangers back or Dino Charge Rangers back because the Pink Ranger is on some CW show, Katie Keene or something like that. I don't watch it, but I know she's
it'll be suit actors more than likely.
Yeah,
like,
I wonder if they'll have her do the voiceover though. Like when we get her voiceover from LA or New York, wherever they film, and then send over.
I have no idea, but it would be cool. It would be cool. Like I do look forward to seeing what they're gonna do with that team up portion. But it would be nice to actually see Hasbro take advantage of the movie footage in terms of team ups, because I want to get the team ups going again.
I do too. I want good team ups. I want it to be nighttime when they fight. I want them to have a nighttime fight and be dark. You know, because for the longest time in Saban, you know, you couldn't fight after 5 because you're curfew. You're gonna be home for dinner. So the villains are like so respectful. It's like, oh, it's 7:30. Too late to conquer the world. They got to go home and do their homework.
That's very true.
I guess it would be awesome if they just had like a realistic, you know, these are adults. They're not supposed to be school age. It'd be cool to actually have a team up movie, and some of it was at night. Some of it was during the day. They actually showed nighttime, you know, it's like more realism, more. I know this is supposed to be for a younger audience, but adults do watch it and they know that at this point, they know there's an adult following. So at least add some kind of elements in, make it nighttime. You know?
Oh yeah, 110%. I mean, I would still argue the fact that I think more adults watch Power Rangers than kids do these days.
Yeah.
I mean, you even go to the cons, you go to Ranger Stop or Power Morphicon and stuff like that. You know, I always see
Yeah.
the pictures and stuff like that. I'm like, adult. I'd say probably for every 35 adults I see maybe one kid. That's because they're getting dragged to it.
Yeah, probably introducing their children to Power Rangers. This is what Daddy grew up on, you know. But yeah, I agree with that. My other thing, really quickly, is whenever we have extra footage from Japan, and it's actually like the people, like the crowds that are getting attacked. One of my degrees is in film. So I know whenever I shoot something and I have to use an extra, I have to get an NDA for them to sign so they don't say, oh, you can't use this, blah, blah, blah. How does that work when it's across in another country? Because like there's so many times I've seen Japanese people running or they dub over their voices, but it's their image. So how does that work? You know,
I would think for extra, well, I'm sure in terms of like extras and stuff like that, when it comes to their contracts and stuff, they're probably more along the lines of, they just relinquish all rights to their features, just to be a background extra. Probably just sort of like, I mean, even in Hollywood films, a lot of background extras are literally just, people that they get off the street, just kind of like, okay, just stand in the background here,
I've done that too, but when you're an extra, you have to sign an NDA saying you are allowed to use my image and all cross whatever. But how does it work when it's a Japanese person in Japan? Because we're going by a U.S. based.
I would say that it would be something similar and stuff like that. That they probably, it's like, when they sign the thing, like, hey, because they know that it comes over as Power Rangers. Probably they sign the thing and it says right there in the contract that I approve it for here and over there. You can go cross country and stuff like that, because they do Sentai and Power Rangers in like so many different countries. It's insane. I mean, heck, they get Power Rangers, film it, they give us Power Rangers, and then they turn around, they send it back to Japan, and they get Power Rangers.
Well, no, that's what I think I told you about this last time. Kyoto Ranger or Dino Charge for the American audience. There is a sequel to Japanese version of Dino Charge, Kyoto Ranger, that is actually filmed in Korea. That has a Korean cast, and they're connected to the original Japanese cast. So I thought that was interesting.
That is very interesting.
I'll find the link for you if you want just to have like.
I've already found it.
You found it? Okay. So I really wonder like how many other series they'll do that, and then if they're able to do that, like what we do, maybe we'll start getting some original like content from like Korea, because they have a Sentai show called I hate to say this word, Erection. We're going to say it that way. EREXION, which is a Sentai, but it's basically kind of like a morph between what you would see with American version Beetleborg suits and Sentai suits combined. It's basically the best way.
Like there's a few countries that have their own version of it. Like I know in Thailand, like they have Sport Rangers.
Sport Rangers. Yeah, I still got that song in my head. Sport Ranger. That's such a horrible. It's not bad, but it's weird.
It's definitely an interesting show. I watched a few episodes of it, and I was just like,
there's another show too.
Damn it, they're trying.
I think there's Star Force or something like that in the Philippines. I'll have to find that. But it actually is not bad. And they realistically get the crap beat out of them. So there's blood and everything. So it's more Sentai-ish than it would be American style. Because now here, when we get hit, we don't bleed. Power Rangers do not bleed. There is no blood.
Oh yeah, you might get a couple sparks here and there.
One scratch here that Band-Aid can fit on, and then maybe 2 scenes later it's gone and there's no scar. We don't bleed because we're more bad. We're tougher than apparently the Sentai counterparts who take on damage. I guess that's what they're trying to tell us.
Censorship is really interesting here in the U.S. versus over there. I just remember, like one last thing, and even there's like, the whole thing with like Captain Marvelous, and like he got tied to a cross and crap beat out of him, and I'm like, respect. But all right, that just about wraps up the show. So again, hey, Maria, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it. And everybody, make sure to go ahead and check out her channel, Approach the Nerds. It's in the description down below. She does a lot of TV show reviews and stuff. That's like really fun. You're even reviewing Stargirl right now. You've been on top of that. So for
I review everything. I'm a very broad channel, so like there's not if I like it, it's gonna be on there. But yeah, I love to be here. I love to have these conversations because it's always fun to have another Power Ranger and Sentai fan to talk to, and which is why we have really good collabs together.
Absolutely. And as for me, well, you know who I am. Make sure you like this video, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and thanks for joining us, everybody. Again, thank you, Maria. And take care. Have a great day. And as always, stay geeky. And that is the end of the broadcast.